Hey, this is Judy. This is episode 15. I'm a year late getting back to y'all. Um, Let me tell y'all. The week after I did episode 14, we took Toby to a specialized doctor of orthopedics. Now, we had him to the doctor for many, many times over the years, trying to figure out what was going on with his leg. His hip was turning out, and he was walking with a really bad limp. And so we got into and he'd had all kinds of MRIs and all kinds of tests and DNA, and I mean, just over and over. Well, we finally got into this one doctor. We walked in, he and I, into her office, and she looked at me and said he has cerebral palsy, and that's the issue with his leg. And I was blown away. I did not know what cerebral palsy was. Uh, she had run no test, but she said he had it, and he was going to have surgery on both feet. So I questioned her, of course. Cerebral brain, right? This genius kid who's in the 99 percentile has a cerebral issue. And I explained that to her about how he competes internationally in math contests and finishes in the top 1%, and how he tested out, post high school in most everything at third grade. How can he have a cerebral anything? And she said, he was a preemie, right? I said, yes. And she said, well, if you cut the brain in half this way and you open it out this way, there's a target in there, and the center of the target is the last thing to form inside mommy. And that nearly 90% of all cerebral palsy kids were preemies, and that his rest of his brain had formed. And so that's why it's still wonderful. But that little target is what communicates with the arms, the legs, the eyes, the mouth, all the things he has an issue with. Okay? He has an eye that turns in. His tongue won't make certain letters if it has to go a certain direction. I found out it's his left leg. The right hip is the one that was coming out, but the left foot was causing it. And the right was trying to compensate for it. And let's see, what's the other issue he had? Oh, I told you he drops pencils a lot. Um, I don't remember, but everything he has the issue with is left sided. This is the eye that turns wrong, that part of the mouth, fingers. He can play the piano. He's not having any issue with playing the piano. He can play video games. No issues there. But anyway, we were told he had to have an operation on both feet at the same time, that he would be in a wheelchair for several months, then a walker. He would not be able to go upstairs. He would have a cast up to his hip. And all that came right after I posted that last video about our first week of homeschool. Turned our world upside down. Neither my daughter or I had a handicapped bathroom downstairs or a bedroom downstairs. We both had all our bedrooms, our baths were upstairs. So everything got put on hold, and we went house hunting to put our well, first off, we were just going to buy them a one-story house. But one-story houses cost more than two-story houses. Go figure that. But I guess because they take up more land. But we could find nothing in her price range that was single story, that was big enough for her family. She's got 4 boys, right? So we made the decision, through a suggestion of someone I'm related to who could help us financially, that we go ahead and get a house, a double story, that had handicap accessible bedroom and bathroom downstairs. So that changed our search. We found one, worked out perfect for us. It had a full, huge master downstairs with both a handicap shower and a tub. So you didn't have to just do shower. You could do tub also, and a giant closet, and then a room at the front that they called a study with the double doors. We decided could be his later on when he didn't have to sleep in the same room with mom. Her room could accommodate two big beds. It's so big, the master downstairs. And she really needed to be downstairs because she went up on toe in ballet a year early, and that has ruined her ankles. And then she played volleyball. She was a setter, and she did sports all the time, and her ankles hurt her, and so she avoids going upstairs now. And then upstairs of this house that we found uh, were three bedrooms, two baths, and a loft living room. So we determined the loft living room and the second master upstairs would be my area, and the two boys, uh, bigger boys, would be down at the end of the loft with a bathroom in between them. One boy was away at college, so we didn't have to worry about a place for him. But we made sure the sofa in the loft would accommodate him when he slept over. And then we turned the front room into a playroom for Toby with a sofa on it that would slide into a day bed, and a table that he could put the wheelchair under and do his Lego stuff that he always did in the floor because he wouldn't be able to get in the floor with cast on both legs. And we bought the house. And then, you know what happens when you buy the house? We had to be moved and in by December 15th when he had his surgery. And so my daughter's working 12-hour days. She couldn't help with the move. So me and my carpenter that he helped me when I was flipping houses, we moved my house, got it this house set up for enough furniture that we could make it, and that way my daughter could go over to her house periodically and pick out what stuff was going to come from her house over here too, because I had three beds, so we decided to use my three beds. I had a living room suite that was I had bought specifically for the boys that was big enough for all of them to sit there and play their games, watch their TV, and they would have cup holders. That was in my house over there, so we brought it over here for the living room. My art room sofa we put upstairs in the loft, and she ordered an entertainment center for downstairs, and we brought my dining room table, we brought my chandelier, and we took the light fixture here and put over in the townhome where I live. And then we got it set up enough they could come over here and get moved in by the date of the surgery. And she took a month off work after the surgery and stayed home with him, and we did no schooling. We did no schooling in December. We did no schooling in January. And I don't remember when we started back schooling, but he was so far ahead that we weren't really concerned because he's already doing seventh grade stuff. He had already tested out at post high school in most everything. So there was no point in, uh, you know, trying to keep up that schedule because he wasn't going to fall behind, you know. The one thing I did worry about is the anesthesia might mess with his brain, but it didn't. When we did start back to school, he was as sharp as ever. There was no loss of learning, no loss of his math. He still remembered how to do everything he was doing. Beats me at everything in math. I mean, he's so fast and he does it all with his head. No pencils, no paper. And I'm sitting there scribbling, trying to do pencils and paper. And you might say, why are you doing that? Why don't you just use your answer key? Because twice I said he missed something and he told me he didn't. And I said, yes, you did. The answer key says you missed it. He said, you work it and you prove it to me that I missed it because I don't make math mistakes. I went, okay. So I did the problems and he was right that the teacher's book had transposed the numbers. So I quit after that happened twice. I don't believe the teacher's book anymore on test answers. So I do the problems right along with him to make sure we agree every time. And then if we're not sure about our answer, I will get the teacher's book and look at it. So anyway, trying to get used to living two families as one family, trying to get used to a new schedule, trying to get used to a new home, many doctor appointments, going from wheelchair to walker, PT several times a week, uh, losing eventually the 40 pounds of casts on his legs, going into braces on his legs, etc., etc. I just haven't had time to even think about this program and coming on YouTube and keeping y'all filled in. Um, Matter of fact, if you want to know the truth, I totally forgot I had a YouTube page during all of that because my mind was wrapped up in our family issue. And then one day I was talking to a lady on the phone about real estate, and I told her, well, you ought to watch my videos on my YouTube page because I talk about that issue uh, in the Bible. I know it was a real estate call, but she was a new Christian and she had some questions. So I said, I have a YouTube channel that I'm teaching through the Bible. Well, I hadn't taught in there either in a year. So I only got to like the Ten Commandments, I believe, when this all happened. So there has been no new episodes and no new Bible teaching in a year. And so I got to thinking about, man, if I had followers who come on here and they've been looking, they may have thought I'd drop dead or something. Why am I no longer uh, teaching about homeschooling, and why am I no longer teaching about God? Well, it was just the facts of life. I just didn't have the time. And to be honest, there's not a really good place in this house with so many people living here that I can get away from the noise, that I can get away from the activity, from the mess of somebody dropping their school books on the on the table, or taking their shoes off in the middle of the floor. Or, it's just, plus the college student moved back home and he's going to go to college here locally. So we turned the playroom, since Toby really never liked going in there and playing by himself. So we turned it into a dorm room, and it's fixed up so cute for the college student that Toby loves it now. He wants to hang out with his big brother. His brother and him are mini-me's. We take their pictures of the same age. We can't tell them apart. Honestly, they have the same profile, same hair color, same eyes. Everything about them's the same. The other two boys take after their dad with dark hair, the Hispanic part of their heritage. But Toby and the college boy are closer to my color hair. Yeah. So, anyway, now we have 6 people in this house, and my bedroom may be the only place I can come that I can do some videos. And so I thought, well, they're all downstairs eating lunch. Might be a good time to bring you guys up to date as to why I disappeared off the face of the YouTube earth for a year. And that's why. But we're back to homeschooling, and we're how do I say this? We're really jiving. He's doing well. And he's not even having to wear the braces all the time. And 2 weeks ago, he ran for the first time since he was 3 years old. He's still trying to turn the hip out. We have to keep telling him, walk straight, because you get in a habit. I know I got a new hip once, and I had been limping for 2 or 3 years. My husband of that time called me Hopalong Cassidy, or maybe Chester more than anything. I think he called me Chester. And in PT, they had to teach me to not walk the way I had been walking. Even though I didn't need to, I had a good hip. My body was trained to walk hippity hop, with my shoulders doing something. And they had to make me learn again how to walk with my shoulders straight and my arms, hanging by my side. And so we still have to remind him that put your feet on the ground, because that was the issue. He had been walking on tippy toes so long he couldn't put his foot on the ground. The muscles and tendons and everything had shortened up, and tippy toes is all he could do. So now he's going to get his feet on the ground again. And like I said, he ran, not real fast and not very elegantly, but he was so thrilled he went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in a long empty living room that my carpenter and I were putting a new floor in, and my carpenter made a big deal about it. And he's been going up and down stairs here at the house now for months. I mean, he could have an upstairs bedroom now and an upstairs bathroom, but here's the catch. We were told that every time he goes through a growth spurt, we may have to do the surgery again. So we're going to keep the house. um, you know, you just don't know when this cerebral palsy is going to do that again, to his little body. But he is in a growth spurt because I'm almost eye to eye with him now. He's 10 years old. And so it hadn't slowed down his growth. And he's in officially fifth grader. He's at the end of a seventh grade math book. I did a placement test at the end of fourth grade to see if I should go into the Saxon eighth grade or the Saxon pre-algebra, and it was a Saxon placement test. And it said definitely go into algebra. Not even algebra one half. It said he was ready for algebra. So I'm not sure I'll go into algebra. I may go ahead, skip the eighth grade, and go into the algebra one half, just to make sure he's really ready, that it wasn't kind of a funny test, a funny placement test or something like that. But he's just so smart at math that he maybe really is ready for algebra. So I hate to spend the money on an algebra one half kit, because they're like $125 for everything you need, and then find out halfway through lesson 10 that it's so easy that it's just a waste of time. So I'm hoping I can find a used algebra one half from a homeschooler that I can get cheaper, or maybe off of a used one off of Amazon, before I invest in a full kit for the whole year. And I figure it will take us 2 years to get through that. I think we're going to go slower, because really, after you finish algebra, you've got algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, and then one other math before college, right? And here he is in fifth grade. So what's the point of hurrying him through? Just don't want him to get bored. And right now, there's so many things in the Saxon, because you never just do 6 weeks of one thing. You get 30 problems of every kind of stuff that you do, that, it keeps you from totally forgetting that you flip and make a reciprocal when you're dividing with fractions, and you multiply instead. That way you don't forget that fact if you have one of those problems every single day. And then, you have a factor tree every single day. You have prime numbers every single day. Area, perimeters, volume, faces, edges, square roots, all those things. Every day you have a problem with them. That way you don't go 6 weeks of doing one thing and then forget. So we are on lesson 98, I believe, out of 120 in the seventh grade book, and we're taking 2 days for each lesson. Not that we need 2 days for a lesson, because the lesson's really short, usually like 15 minutes, with a practice set that just is that. But to start the lesson, you have 10 to 15 hearing problems that you're supposed to answer in your head. It's a warm-up. You have a speed drill, which I don't do those. I'm not going to do speed drills. Written ones anyway, because he has that dysgraphia with his hands. So if I'm going to give him a speed test, I want it to be oral. I give the problem, you give the answer. We can do that, and he can do those. He can do the whole page in way less than a minute when it's out loud. But then after you finish your problem set that goes with that lesson. You've got the 30 problems that has everything in it. Well, those sometimes we break down into 2 days because it's very tedious to do 30 problems after you've already done a lesson and 10 out loud problems and the problem set that went with the lesson. To then throw in 30 more problems, it makes it feel like that you're doing hours and hours of math. So we break it into 2 days. We'll do the out loud ones, a lesson, the problem set, and maybe 3 or 4 problems in the other set of 30. And then we'll come back the next day fresh and finish the 30 and then do the out loud and a lesson. Okay. Also, something I've started doing, and I did this with Nicky, his older brother, when he was homeschooling, is if something is so ingrained in his brain that, he reads the problem, just says the answer out loud really quick, I note that to myself. He doesn't need to keep practicing that every single day. And so I will go through the lessons and pick out 19 to 20 that I want to be sure he knows of the newer stuff. And I will only hit those things that I know he knows once every 5 lessons because you get a test every 5 lessons that has some of everything on it. So that way I know he stays up on it. And I'm sorry if I'm making you dizzy because I'm got this computer on my legs and on a bed. I think I move sometimes and it makes the computer jump. See, it's not an earthquake. It's just my bed jumping up and down. So that's what we're doing in math. Yesterday, we made a transversal poster. The lesson was pretty long about transversals the day before, with a lot of big words like supplementary, complementary, interior, exterior, the different angle sizes, complementary, all that stuff. Congruent. And I thought, well, I'm going to be sure he's got that because I have to admit, in my 70s, I was getting confused. He rarely gets confused, but I do. So I got the idea, let's do an art project. And we made a poster and we drew parallel lines on it. He wanted to use different colors. So I got him something to use as straight edge. He drew how long he wanted them to be. Then we took a leather strap, knotted it on each end, and I let him place them with tacks where he wanted the transversal to go. And I put a dot wherever it crossed the colorful line parallel lines he had drawn. And then we took is it the protractor or the compass that looks like a half moon? We had a set that had both in it, brand new, never used. We opened it, I gave it to him, and he measured. It was a good review of that you have a 0 going from one direction and a 0 going from the other, so he can measure both angles across that were supplementary. And once he found out that his small acute angle was 50, he knew that the other one was 130 because supplementaries make 180s. And so then he went from the 0 this way back to see if it really was 130 to prove the point. And so he did that, and he then labeled all of his angles one in clockwork order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on down to the third parallel line. So he had a total of 12 angles. And then I asked him which ones are exterior, and he said 1 and 2 and 11 and 12. So I wrote that on the poster for him. And then I said which ones are interior, and he listed all the other angles. And then I said which ones are supplementary, and he told me some. And he didn't have to tell me all. I just said name 2 or 3 supplementary angles, name 2 or 3 congruent angles, and I just did like that. But having that poster now, as we go on with transversals in later lessons that they want to teach us about, we'll have his little poster that he made that he can use as a sample, and we can keep adding around the edges those things that we're learning. So anyway, that's where we are in math right now. In reading out loud, I'm reading him Kinsey and Max, book 3, which is an Usborne book about two kids who are part of Pharos, which is a spy, uh, a governmental spy ring in England. And their grandmother's head of the spy ring. So you get a lot of excitement there. The chapter we read yesterday was kaboom in their house. Their townhome in the city got bombed. Well, kaboom. Okay, then when we get through with me reading out loud, I go by what his sugar number is as a diabetic. If the sugar's still high from breakfast, I don't do math. I wait till he gets closer to normal to do math. And so if he's going to read to me, we're reading an Usborne book on mythology. Our boys are into the epic saga on Netflix, I think it is, or maybe it's YouTube. I'm not sure which one it's on. But this young man during the pandemic wrote a musical about mythology, about Odysseus and Oedipus, the Odyssey, and all that stuff. So they love singing the songs from that video, and he's adding sagas to the epic periodically every so many weeks. And so my house is full of singing. They'll be in different rooms singing the same epic song, and now they found an old video game that's mythology, and they're playing that, and they'll be playing each other on the different TVs. And so our house is full of mythology, and of course I make sure they know that mythology is made up gods, that it's not the real God. And Toby has he lets me know every day when he's reading the mythology book what the real God would have done in that situation. How the real God would never punish people the way these gods did. They would not have done these things that the mythology gods are doing. So he's letting me know that he knows it's all made up. But even the Christian colleges like Hillsdale say we need to know mythology because we need to know how they got started, how Satan was in on that, to take the eyes off the one true God and instead throw it on made up gods who were sinful just like man is. Our God is not sinful. He's omnipotent. He's omnipresent. He's omniscient. He knows everything. He can do anything. He's all powerful. And he doesn't mate with women and ruin the gene pool like Satan's angels did. So anyway, he's reading to me mythology, and that is practice for all those Greek letters that he knows to see how they're pronounced and how the accent on Greek words is. And in the back of this book is a for all the different characters in the stories, they have the Greek pronunciation. So he's learning that AE, has the long E sound. And since he's known how to say and sing the Greek alphabet for 2 years, now he's learning the sound of the Greek words more. And I know when I went to Greece, I found out we here in America say a lot of words wrong, like Thessaloniki. How do we Thessalonians? When you're in Greece, they tell you you're going to go to the city of Thessaloniki, and the "ni" is the accent, and a lot of those Odyssey names have the E sound in it, and it's always the stress when it's the long double E like that. And so when you see an I, like on Thessalonica, it's Niki, okay? And I guess that's why my grandson Nicky, has an I in his name instead of an E. Nicky. All right, so that's reading out loud, reading silently, and math. We're still doing the Texas and the U.S. history at the same time, and we're up to great inventions right now. Like the telegraph yesterday, he learned the dots and dashes. And I forget what the other great invention was yesterday. Telegraph and escaped my memory. But in the U.S. history, we had gotten to World War One. We didn't go into World War One. So, let me get a drink here. I've got something caught in my throat, or my tooth one. So, what I did, since we're not up to World War One in Texas history, but we are up to great inventions. And in history, we were up to great inventions, but it was fixing to lead into World War One. I stopped both, and I found this really good YouTube series that was 4 hours long, called What Caused World War One by the Numbers. Very good. I mean, they stressed the numbers like a billion bullets were used in World War One, and it's really they've got some real photographs, black and white, from that time period, and it's good to see because again, you're going to see that in World War II also. My friend Christiana's from Germany, and she doesn't know the German folk tales like our children know the German and the Czech and all the different nations' folk tales, that we have in our children's classics, and like the 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 bell on the tiger's tail story, or Cinderella dressed in yellow, that kind of thing. All those little ditties, oh, Mother Hubbard lived in a cupboard. Those kind of things my friend doesn't know. And I said, how could you not know that? That's every little kid learns those things. She said after she's in her 80s. She said the devastation of our nation from World War II destroyed every school, every library. We had no books. When they opened our schools, we had no books but textbooks. She said there were no reading books. And she said there were no libraries that we could go and check out library books. And so she had missed all of that. Even by the time I guess her kids were in school, they were still short of those kind of things. Because as a mother, she would have been reading them to her children because they stayed in Germany even after she married an American soldier. They lived in Germany till their kids went to college, and then they came back to America. So I took her for my children's classics. I took her the beginning one that has all those little ditties in it and gave it to her so she could catch up. Why did that jump over the moon? Or why did they put in their thumb and pull out a thumb? And why did he fall off the wall? All those things. Why did the old lady live in a shoe? I mean, all those kind of stories that we learned as little kids, she doesn't have as part of her history. So I loaned her my book. She's giving it back now. She said she enjoyed reading it, so she has a little bit of that knowledge now. Because I would bring up things, well, like in blah, 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 blah. And she'd say, no, I don't know that. Really? You don't know that? No. Well, then finally she told me that. Well, so in this World War One documentary by the Numbers, you can see the devastation. It's just piles and piles and piles of debris. And so I stressed to him, war is evil. War is terrible. War is not a video game where you can jump up after they kill you 5 minutes later and play again. War is serious, and it's usually done because two powerful people want more power or more land. And the sad part of World War One, that all of those powerful people that were fighting were cousins. They were cousins. Isn't that awful that they were willing to destroy millions of lives because they were arguing over power with their cousins? And we citizens let them. Why did we do that? Why? Well, finally, in World War One, both Russians and the French rose up against their governments and said, no more, no more. Yeah. And that's why you got the Russian Revolution and the Tsar was thrown over, and you got communism, Stalin, Lenin, that group. So they traded something not good for something even worse. No freedom at all. At least the kings let you choose your jobs, pick where you wanted to live, own some property. The communist socialists don't do that. You're at the beck and call of the government. So anyway, I'm trying to give him a good education in that so that it doesn't romanticize war. It's not romantic. It's horrific, and we lose generations of young people when we go to war. So let's do everything we can to stay out of war. So that's what we're doing in history, and we finished to the point where the United States got in World War One, and we stopped the video. And so, in 30 minutes left of that video, that 4-hour video of World War One, the U.S. was only involved in the last 30 minutes of the video, so we were not a big part of it. We may have been the cause of the victory for the Allies, but we didn't go through all the horrible, horrible stuff that those people in Europe went through during World War One. And so that's our history. Science, we're still working through that little workbook I told you about. We just finished up with earthquakes and glaciers and are on a review of that chapter. But also, we're watching Amoeba Sisters on YouTube, which is more of a high school class. And we're doing sales right now, and my brain is fried from it, but he says he's understanding it. That's the favorite part of his day is watching Amoeba Sisters. One of the sisters is a high school biology teacher. She does all the talking, and she talks very, very, very fast. I have to back it up all the time. The sister's an artist, and she does the cartoon drawings of everything. And so I'm getting a high school biology class myself, I tell you, because science has come a long way since 1966 and 67 when I took biology. They know a lot more about those cells and DNA and all that when I was in school. So I think I may be learning more than he is. It's easy for him, it's not so easy to me, and he gets frustrated when I back it up. But I feel like I need to back it up and understand it. It'd be because if he ever has a question, if I'm not understanding it, how are we going to learn it? So that's history. Uh, he's still playing his piano. At the end of this last year, his little organ, he did a recital for his family. They had never heard him really play, and so we moved his little organ to the dining room, and set everybody in the living room, and we set up a table like a real recital would be with punch and cookies, and he split it in half. He did a first half of one type of song, and the second half was others plus a piano song that he had learned. Now, this year, he's decided his hands have grown enough that he can handle the piano most of the time. So he's moved to the piano. We still have the organ, but he hadn't touched it in weeks. I have a feeling the piano will be the instrument of choice for a while. He says he would like to play the drums. We'll see. I'm not sure I'm up to listening to drum practice every day. My two grandchildren in Pflugerville, one plays the clarinet in the marching band, and one plays either trumpet or saxophone. I get them mixed up because I never was a band person myself. But so they're playing instruments too. And Toby's second to the oldest brother taught himself piano. And you're probably hearing it in the background right now. He's never had a lesson, but he plays like a concert pianist, and he's already composing songs himself. He's got the flexibility and the rhythm and that I never had. Mom took lessons 5 years, and teacher said, "You have no talent after 5 years. Take voice lessons." So I'm not very good. So I really appreciate when they're playing the piano and they do such a good job. Okay, so we got science, we got history, we got reading, we've got reading aloud, math, music, and then still working art into projects like our transversal poster. Yeah. And we haven't done Bible this year. Our Bible class at the church they did away with. So I'm going to have to come up with my own Bible lessons, and I need to start doing that. But believe it or not, I've been remodeling my daughter's house, and I finally finished it this week. We're cleaning out the garage now, and then we're going to sell her house. So I've been kind of involved in that. So I will start as soon as we get that cleaned out. That time that I've been having to go over there and work on the house will be our Bible study time. And this is where we are in our homeschool. And I've caught you up. Hopefully, I won't go another year without coming and fill you in on what we're doing and maybe give you some suggestions on things we found. Matter of fact, when I watched the last episode to refresh where I left off, there were some things we did last year at the beginning of the year that once I found out the diagnosis and the surgery never got done again. We never did the vocabulary cards again. We never did, oh, what was it? It was a notebook he was going to do where he was going to be writing. We didn't do that anymore because I wasn't going to traumatize his little hands when his feet were covered in casts and braces and all that. I figured the trauma of the legs was enough. Don't traumatize his hands too. So kind of got away from using pencils. We haven't had a graveyard of pencils in a year now. Well, nice to touch base with you, and hopefully it won't be another year. Thank you. See you next time.